Thank you for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom number 146. The gang is all here, but I'm not going to go through their names this time just because I don't feel like it. But we're all going to talk about slot car stuff. As usual, we'll start with show and tell. So if anybody has anything they want to show and tell, a new purchase, a project, uh, anything that they want to just show and tell and talk about. Dennis has his hand up. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I want to get in quickly because I'm going to be leaving early. So let me change over the camera and show you this.
Oh, is that the new Policar?
That is the new Policar, guys, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It is really, really nicely done. These are the extra little pieces that come with it in the box. It has a regular style wing, which is two pieces you have to glue together. At the center post is separate and has to be glued on, which I've done already. I've done a little bit of research as well, and in a lot of cases, the car was run with a black wing, just with the Goodyear logo on the top and a Goodyear and an Agip logo on the side.
I think that wing there only ran once, didn't it, Dennis?
Which one?
The one on the car.
The one on the car was only used in practice at Long Beach once, yes, before the FIA outlawed it.
Yeah, they were sticking the
long story about
the FIA, weren't they?
Yeah, the story about it was that apparently the rules were a little bit what's the word I'm looking for?
Ambiguous.
Ambiguous is the word. Thank you. In terms of they specified how wide each element could be, but they didn't specify how wide the whole wing could be. And so they tried this whole deal of splitting the elements into two to get this wider wing to see whether it can make any difference. But apart from the fact that the FIA eventually said, that's not what we were thinking, I don't know that it made any great difference anyway. And it's a lot more flimsy. So they had the stock wing, and the stock wing's available, and it seems to fit quite nicely in the back. I haven't actually tried because the rear of the car, the way that the wing does is it slides up into the, oh, hang on, there's a wire in the way. The base of that center strut then slides up into the transmission detail, and I think it'll make for quite a nice mounting. And in most cases, as I was saying, they ran it black with just with the logos on it, so it'll work out pretty well. And then they provided a spare wing with both of the long wings and a spare nose with no wings, because of this car was run. These cars were often run without wings because they had so much downforce from the car, from the center pods themselves.
Hey, Dennis, just a note, I was actually at that race.
Ah, okay.
No, it was pretty cool too.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. That was what,
1982.
81?
82.
82?
Yeah.
I was at both 81 and 82, but that was 82.
Yeah, it's long before my time down here.
Yeah.
I was actually in Southern California in 82, but in July, so I wasn't there at the time of the Grand Prix. Anyway, so that's what I've got. Comments about the car itself. It all looks pretty nice. The front end setting up the front axle and getting the wires right is a lot easier on this one than it's been on a couple of the others lately. I haven't run it yet. I've trued all the tires and got all of that basic work done, but with having been ill and with the weather out here at the moment, I haven't opened my track at all. But it's just so pretty, man. It really is. They have done it. It's pretty much die-cast model quality in terms of all of my camera does it no justice whatsoever. but all of the little details around the back end. It's a pretty wide car too. That's something that I haven't measured yet, but across the back it's pretty wide. I'll update you now, but I'll let somebody else go. So that's me for now.
So it's a slot car worth it, in the sense, I mean, after the first corner, if a Kama is gonna be still able to run, have you tried?
Well, seeing as I
or is it
generally,
just like a fly?
I just generally don't crash at the first corner. I don't really have a problem.
Oh, okay, that's good.
I certainly wouldn't crash it at the first corner. I have a feeling that yes, it's going to break parts off if you're going to run it hard. My experience of the Policar Formula Ones is that certainly on my track, they handle very nicely and they're very nice to drive, and that I cannot see that there will be any major issues with this one.
It's a beautiful car.
Isn't it lovely?
Yes.
All right, guys, that's me for now.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And that was a call from my inspector, so and he's going to be here early, so I'm definitely going to have to dip out in a few minutes. So if I disappear, you guys will just have to figure out how to keep chatting. Dewann had his hand up next. Go ahead, Dewann.
Okay, well, I know a couple of weeks ago, Dennis shared that we had a little barter thing going on, and I'm heading down to LA this weekend, and I'm going to be bringing this with me.
Oh,
This is the box art, and it's not in perfect condition. You can probably see a little water damage towards the bottom edge of it right there, but for the most part, it's excellent. Let's see here.
oh, wow, Dewann.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
Just look at that. Oh man.
Yeah, for its age, I would call that excellent condition for the age.
This is one of those childhood dreams come true.
Mm-hmm.
One of those teenage things as a youngster in South Africa, looking at all this stuff and looking at these kits and sets that were available in the States. When I was in high school, I used to work volunteer in the school library, and we used to get all kinds of magazines from around the world. And a couple of the magazines that we used to get in the school library was Car Model, Model Car Science, Model Car and Track, all of those, that type of magazine. And we would, as one of the librarians, I got first choice of, when a new magazine or a new book came in, I was the first one to be able to check it out. And I read those things from cover to cover, and I read every advert. I drooled over all these things. We remembered the legend that was Riverside, and that was Can-Am. And so this is an absolute dream come true for me. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the only mishap here on this set is that blue car. It somehow looked like it was heat damage, and you can see, well, when you look up real close, you'll see that some.
That's not a problem.
Yeah. So, but everything cleaned up exceptionally well.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the Monogram track, along with the Revell track, were like the benchmark of the time.
I would consider Revell Cadillac and Monogram Rolls Royce.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they were so good.
Yeah, yeah. The only drawback of these are the tabs, breaking the tabs on the end of them. So you got to be extra. But you can see a little bit of disformity from the blue.
Yeah. Oh well. We'll see what we can do about that.
All right. Well, I'll be down there probably Friday and all day Saturday. So we'll make arrangements to.
So you're going to be at Eddie's on Saturday.
I'm going to be at Eddie's on Saturday. Yeah, but I'm supposed to be in County on Friday evening potentially. So I don't know whatever works best. We'll work it out.
Okay. Good. Oh, wonderful, man. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
That's my first.
Yeah, just so that you know, your end of the bargain. I actually am still looking for tires. I thought that we had good a good stock of Ortmans to be able to do some of the work. But when I went checking, I see that the numbers that I had, or the part numbers that I had, were wrong. So I'm going to have to just have a look through the stock again and make sure that I find the right tires. Mostly for the 1/32 scale cars. Fortunately, they're all pretty much the same size. But if I can't get the Ortmans, then I'll get the Dart Hobbies ones from Art in Toronto, because they're also very, very good.
Okay, great.
All right.
I'm not worried about my timetable, so I just the convenience of being able to drive down and take it with me. That's why
Sure.
I was pressing.
Excellent. Thank you, man.
Right. And then the second part, I did have a delivery yesterday from some items that I purchased, and it came out so well. I know you guys have seen these things everywhere online, but I don't know if I can, oh boy, show this or not. This is race car, Scenics. Can you see this?
Race Track Scenics, yeah.
Yeah, Race Track Scenics. So this is their Golf. I can't do. I just unpacked it, so I didn't quite get a chance to put it on my layout and everything.
Like a golf service station. Oh, look at that! That's lovely.
And I mean, it's a 3-part selection here. This because that's the station bay and all that stuff, and this is the actual gas station itself.
Wow.
But they just really, I mean, it's painted, delivered, assembled, and everything for. I mean, he's grossly undercharging as far as the value that I perceive it to be. It's you just can't beat these things, man. So I got that. I got the this is a Coke stand. I think everyone's seen it's been online everywhere, but just getting it and having him already put it together and assembling it and the boxes and
wow,
it's amazing. I think I got like because I have about 10 of his sets that I haven't put together because it's so much. It's not that hard. It's just you got to get the time and spell it out. Yeah. So.
Oh, look at that. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, just a work of art. Just can't beat these things. Oh, stuff one of the little shipping peanuts in there. But yeah, so that's I think I have 2 or 3 more pieces of it. But anyway, you get the gist of it. So. But,
yeah, I didn't even know he sold them assembled. That's super cool.
It was an option, and I saw that, and I said, you know what? For an extra $15-20, painted, assembled, and it did take it took quite a bit longer. He did send a note during the winter time because he says the weather was just so atrocious out where they were in North Carolina that he couldn't even paint. So it took an extra month or so for it to all be done, but he did it all. Amazing.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, Race Track Scenics makes a lot.
Every week they come out with a new thing. So yeah, exactly. I have quite a few other pieces. I have about 10 to 12 other pieces around my track already assembled. I have to, when I get everything together, I have to showcase that. All laid out.
Might have to do some Race Track Scenics for our next giveaway. All right, thanks for showing that off, Dewann. And are you all done, Dewann?
Yeah, for now.
Okay. Good deal. And Don, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, I've shown you all purchases of junk that I have bought, but from time to time, I do buy something new. This is what I got this week. So,
a brand new car.
Oh yeah. I haven't even taken it out of the box yet.
Yeah, but what is it?
What's that?
It's a GT3, but which one?
I think it's a DTM
or DTM.
Oh, DTM maybe.
Yeah. So I only had one other DTM, so I bought one so I'd have 2 to race.
Nice.
And these have become available again for anybody that's looking for them. Frankenslot controllers.
Have you used it yet?
Okay.
Pardon?
Have you used it yet?
Yes, I have.
Are you liking
Was
it?
it
Well, compared to the thumb controller, I like it much better.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's wireless.
wireless is
for-
wireless, so
No.
you have your delays.
Yeah, Carrera has a small
Anyway, it's
delay.
fun. I like it.
Yeah.
What's that?
Carrera Digital has a very short delay anyways. I haven't tried. I got a Frankenslot as well secondhand, but I haven't had my Carrera stuff out to try it yet. But
Well, I haven't played with the speed controls on it,
yeah, it's got a
I
lot
just-
of fancy features.
and since I'm not that great of a driver to begin with, I haven't seen any great need in messing with any of that. So,
Yeah.
but that's all I got for now.
Nice.
Yeah, they're good controllers. The best thing is that they're wireless to the Carrera Wireless Plus receiver. You don't have to put a whole big contraption together like for the slotted controller if you wanted to go wireless with that. So yeah, good controller, good features, good value. Thanks for sharing, Don. And Dennis, you put your hand back up.
By mistake, I'm afraid.
Okay, not a problem. Anybody else want to do any show and tell? You can wave your real hand in front of the camera. Not seeing any. We'll go to Henry. Did you got something you want?
Henry's got.
All right, unmute yourself and take it away.
Yeah, there it is. The inner circle saw it already, but this is the Healy, the X Pro Healy. It's a resin car,
Okay.
PLA at the back. It's one of the designs from the group of Chapman.
Chappy man.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it as a slot car. So, and it drives really, really good. It's not a winner yet because I drove at my wooden track 8.6 and it has to be around 8.2, 8.1. So there's still some work in it, but it's a small design. It's a small car. So
It looks
the
very
next
nice.
one, yeah, I found it pretty nice. Yes, of course. Yeah. It's not too heavy with the resin, and you can work on the resin, but you can't work on the PLA. That's also very difficult to lose some weight. So, I have begun on working on the Thunderslot. So, took the paint out and did some trimming by the wheels at the end, behind, and did some scale auto foam on it, but I also have to change the bushings because it's when you want to do a slotted axle in it, you have to change the bushings also.
Mm-hmm.
And why will you do it? Now we drive a certain class with foam tires. So, and this is the class that the car can compete in. It has an enormous punch of lead in it. And when you want to use the new future from it, normally the wires are under the axle. Now, you can't drive it that way because it's gonna stick in between your axle and your chassis. It doesn't work. So I did the wires above the axle, and I did a piece of lead on the, how do you call this thing? The
center section.
Yeah, the center section. That's the same way I do it with race cars. Put some lead at the end, so you get always a heavier point over here. And for now it works. I took out the rubbers on the screws and I did some shimming over there. And and that way you can lower the car something about a millimeter, and that is better for the behaving because at our wooden track, on a Carrera track, everything drives. That's no problem at all. But on a wooden track, it's a different cookie. So it rolled over times after times in the corners. I have to test it, but at the moment at the Carrera track with a lot of speed, it does what I thought it has to do. So let's see the progress of it. But it's not an easy car. It's not out of the box running great. What I do like is the motor, and I don't know if it's the motor of Thunderslot, and I don't know if somebody has this car, but it has a sort of punch. Do you recognize that? When you get your throttle and you give it your thumbs in it, and it is bam, it's gone. And I don't know if it's the motor or it's the car totally, but I like that. It's an enormous acceleration.
Yeah, like NSR motors tend to be like that.
Yeah, I think the Thunderslot motors are quite punchy at the low end. Certainly, they seem to work really well on the 90-foot track that we have at Electric Dreams.
Yeah.
So, Jim may have something to say about that too.
Yeah, those are the guys, of course, that they come from from NSR. So
originally, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think they spend a little bit more money than slotted on the motor.
Yeah, if you have not run a Thunderslot motor before, you will definitely be impressed with the performance.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's it for today.
All righty. Anybody got any questions for Henri? Hearing none, we're moving on. And Dewann, did you have something that you wanted to ask, or you had another thing you wanted to share?
Yeah, well, Jim was ahead of me, I think. He had his hand up, but okay.
I thought you might have had something you wanted to, circle back on. So we're,
Okay, well, I had an off question. It's more show and ask.
Okay, go ahead.
I have this GT2 Porsche 911 rather, that I lost the tail
wing
roller. Yeah, wing good. And I was putting a question to my club, the Far Out Club, as to whether or not this was going to be legal to be even raced without the tail. And I haven't got the answer back. But the real question is, if it comes back that it's illegal, how do I get a replacement for this? Is there a replacement part for this available, or do people just make their own? Or
that's a Revoslot, right?
It's a Revoslot 911 GT2.
There may well be parts for Revoslot. I'll check it and let you know.
Okay, all right.
If not, I think if you just took a piece of plastic and put it in there to make sure that it weighs as much as the car did before, and then paint it like carbon black or something, I think that would get by. It would in my club.
Okay. Well, I have extra wings and things like that. I could try to jury rig and put on there, but oops, lose that one. But yeah, so that was an option I was considering, but I wanted to get the original one, obviously. I don't know how it broke off, or I'm sure I know how it broke off, but I don't know where it is now.
Well, hopefully
we normally make them from rubber, and then they won't break anymore.
Yeah, hopefully there's a spare that you can get so it's original. But most of the clubs that I'm aware of would basically, as long as it looks appropriate, they'll usually, as long as it's there and looks appropriate, they're fine with whatever you put in there. All right, Jim, you are.
Sorry, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Dewann, there is a pack, a spare parts pack from Revoslot that's RS-102, and it's white body parts kit. And I'm just having a look at that now to see whether it has a wing in it.
Is that like the whole body and everything too, or?
No, it's just the detail parts.
Okay.
I
think it would.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, it looks to me like it does have
Probably got that.
Okay. So electric dream site?
Yeah,
Or it's just
Electric Dreams RS102.
okay, excellent. I'll look forward to it. I'll try to stop by there Friday, hopefully.
Perfect.
Okay.
And get some black paint.
Okay.
All right,
Who
Jim,
said
your
you
turn.
can't have a black car with a white wing? So you could
That's true, especially not that one. That would be illegal.
You could better see him on the track now.
That's true. It'll be easier to see. Make it an orange wing. Big little orange.
Sort of, because black on black is not nice.
Yep. All right, Jim.
You could paint it blue and yellow too, I guess.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Dewann stole my thunder. I was going to create a new category. I hadn't thought of the name for it, but the show and ask, that's what I'm going to do. And it's something I just saw today, and I was wondering if anybody has seen this or not. It's a 3D printed car and chassis. They're calling it basically a Formula Ford because it's somewhat similar to a Formula Ford. And it's all one, it's not one piece, but it's a motor pod, the helmet. The earlier version has a guide. There's like 4 versions on Shapeways. And the newer one uses a slim can motor. The older one, I think, uses a different motor. But I just wondered if anybody had seen these and had any experience with them, because they look kind of cool. I think, to me, if you took a couple of the staff's wheels, put it on this, and made it into a spec class, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, they look great. I was going to ask you about that because I saw you posting that link this morning.
Yeah, I just got the link this morning from a friend of mine back east, an HO racer, and I'd never seen this before.
Actually, come to think of it, I seem to remember, now that you say HO, I seem to remember that this whole thing started in and around Cincinnati.
Yeah, it is. This is Cincinnati's, the guy that races at Cincinnati Slots, or that group, yeah.
Yeah, with Butch Dunaway. And the initial versions were basically a body that fitted straight on top of just a plain slotted inline pod. The slotted inline pod was the chassis.
Yeah, the original version, it came with a pod, but you could put a slotted pod in it.
Yeah,
but so it had the mounting points for a slotted pod. This new one is just it's a proprietary pod.
Okay, so
it's also set up for digital.
I think it looks great, and I think that they've done a really nice job of it.
Yeah, I think it would make a cool spec class. You know, this version is like $35, and they just add hardware to it. So with a relatively mild motor, like a 17 or 18K, I think it would be a phenomenal class. So I may buy one and try it. So anyway, I just wondered if anybody had any experience with them.
Yeah, I find it interesting. All right, guys,
I gotta
leave.
There's a video online too on YouTube of them running. So he's got a couple of how-tos and one of the cars actually running.
Nice.
Looks like we've actually got the experience with it.
Looks like Greg has left us for a minute, so let's carry on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. That was it for me. I just wondered if anybody had purchased one, and I may purchase one and then build it and do a video on it.
It's not the only Formula F car out there. When you first showed it and it said Formula F along the bottom, I thought you were actually referencing something that's Portuguese in origin. But
no, I think it's Formula F because he doesn't want to use the word Ford for copyright. I think it is in fact a Formula Ford clone.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any.
I think the one that's brand, Portuguese is the same. It's a clone of a single-seater, no wings, just like that one. But it's not the same one. I thought to myself, he's going to show something I've already seen, and then you didn't.
No, these are on Shapeways, so you can purchase them. Like I said, the cheap one's 30-something. The digital version, and I'm not sure why it's more expensive, but there's a digital version that's like $60, and they come in, obviously they're 3D printed kits.
Cool.
I've got something I can share. if I go to my, oh gosh, screen. I've got my phone in the chat, if you're probably aware. And then go to my gallery over here. I presume you're seeing this. Yes, you are. Okay, that's a results screen. Please ignore that for now. Goodness. Today. What I did today was I installed a slot invasion guide in a Scalextric car. And the slot invasion kit that I bought was specifically for Scalextric car, which meant that it came with this aluminium insert, which was an absolute pain in the backside to get up the chuff of the guide slot, because it was oversized. Either that or the guide slot wasn't worn because the chassis was brand new. But I finally managed to dremel my way to a point where it fitted in. And then I installed the guide and noticed that it was rubbing the edges of the, I'm going to call it ferrule holders, all the way around the hole there. So I had to work with the Dremel to open that. And then when I finally got the thing together in a condition to be able to assess, I was quite disappointed to discover that the length of the neck on the guide was not tall enough to go all the way up through the assembly. It only went up through the aluminium collar that they provided, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed at this point. And then I took a longer look at the guide itself. And there's a few things here that I quite like. The ferrules that were provided with it is the long one there, very, very long. That one next to it is a standard slotted ferrule. However, as you can see, I've got the other one installed in the guide. I don't think it'll sit that low, or it certainly can't. I can't afford for it to sit that low when the braid's in place. Otherwise, it's going to be running on the damn track. But I don't think it'll go that low by the time there's a braid in there. I might try using the alternative. But the blade itself's got quite a nice shape. It's got the radius on the front and back. It's got the top edges cut chamfered so that they don't rub on the chassis anywhere. It's got very slight recesses for the braids to sit into. I think that's the first. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
No.
As you can see, the braids come out through the holes in an angled kind of way, so that they spread slightly, which is again something I've never seen on a guide before. And on the top surface, there is a molded in first shim, shall we call it? As you can see, I've managed to make it a little bit dirty with the aluminium insert so you can easily pick it out. So there's quite a lot about the actual guide blade that I like. It's a full American inch in length. It's got that radius on the front edge of the guide, which makes it like a boat hull. Down there.
For the wooden track, isn't it?
Sorry, sorry, what were you saying, Henry?
It's a wooden track guide or not? Because it's very thick.
No, it's actually, well, yeah, it would probably work very well on a wood track. And I know that we've got members in the group that do this. They use this on specifically for the wood tracks. But it's actually, if I'm not mistaken, designed and intended for Carrera track. And this is the one feature that means that this dimension here is the one feature that means that in most cases it won't work on most other tracks, because this 2.3 millimeter thickness is far too big for Scenic, and it would be too big for Ninco too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was my experience today.
Was that it said it says SI slotted, so is that slot invasion and slotted combination or what?
That's interesting. It's that photo you're referring to.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's IS. Okay,
it says slotted.
It says slot invasion, and the phrase slotted means that it's got the correct neck diameter to fit into a slotted car.
Okay. But the manufacturer that you purchased under was Slot Invasion, or was it?
It was actually very difficult to purchase. I ended up, fortnight, 3 weeks ago now, I went to Eindhoven, And I managed to get a friend who was attending the Eindhoven race meeting to purchase one on my behalf and bring it to the race meeting for me, because I couldn't buy one from Germany directly. They would only ship to Germany.
Where did you buy it?
I couldn't get one from the States either. So this was like Rocking Horse. This was rarer than Rocking Horse dung.
Electric
Did you
Dreams
buy
has
it
them.
in the Dutch store then?
No, it came from Germany. It came from the manufacturer.
Okay.
Dewann, when you go to Electric Dreams on Friday, they have them all. Just make sure you get the right one, because they're different for slotted and then NSR, and then there's 5 or 6 different ones. So just get the correct one.
Yeah.
But it is a slot invasion product. Is that what?
Slot Invasion is the company or the brand, and
Right.
it's on the Electric Dreams website as Slot Invasion.
Okay, great. But they have, but the stamp underneath, that just implied that it was
No, well, slotted
Not
means
with
that's
slot-
the one. Slotted means that's the one made for slotted, and
Right.
on the top you said IS. It's actually upside down
Right.
because
right. That's what.
it's actually SI. Read it from the other direction for that side of the blade.
Yeah, they do they do a range of blades, and I could have purchased that blade without the aluminium, without the ferrules, without the braids. But that's what they've done. They've just made that aluminium insert to convert the slotted one to fit into a scale electric car. If you go to the slotinvasion.com website, you'll see all the options available, and they're not expensive. This one cost me a hell of a lot because it was single item shipped. I've got to go for. I would love to engage with you a little more, but I've got to go right now. I'll be back in a short while.
Okay.
I mean, I did not have that problem installing it in a scale electrics car. It definitely is tight, but I just ran a hobby knife around the hole, and it was a tight fit, but it pressed right in.
Okay, cool.
And
All
if
right.
you use extreme thin braid, does it still work?
Yes.
Thank you, Jim. It's a nice item.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at Well, it looks like Greg is away, so I guess kind of keeping moving things forward. We normally go to the club corner, I guess, unless anybody has anything else to talk about for the show and tell.
Dewann, let me share my screen real quick.
Great.
So
Let's fill up some time.
there's the Slot Invasion on Electric Dreams. Obviously, you see some of them are out of stock, but that's all the stuff that they have for a guide. So there's 5 or 6 of them.
Great. Yeah. Well, and I just really want to clearing up the confusion, the fact that, I saw the 2 brands on there. I was just so it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And the irony of S and I being able to be seen upside down and right, it kind of, I figured it was a Slot Invasion SI, but the fact that it was upside down, kind of, I saw IS, but it must be Slot Invasion. So yeah, okay, makes sense. Great.
Interesting.
All right. Anybody want to go to Club Corner or have anything else they want to show and tell?
Oh, I don't have a show or tell anymore.
Okay. I did have a question that I wanted to I want to throw out to the group. I think quite a while back I mentioned that I was creating a creating a routine to customize the race coordinator race management software. And I've kind of done that. I didn't publish and go forward with it because it was this one element that I was missing that I really wanted to get in there, but I never was able to get it in there. But I'm at the point where I'm going to have to move forward without that element. And it's where the race coordinator would announce the name of the driver whose fuel is getting low. And it doesn't do that. All it just does a generic low fuel. It doesn't tell which driver's fuel is low. So I wasn't able to get that completed in my customization, but everything else about it is ready to go. It's a bit of a routine to go through installing all the different third-party part components to run the software. And I was looking for some volunteers that might have race coordinator. I was ideally hoping that gosh, listen to the name. Not Courtney, but what's the other gentleman that's in But anyway, he does race coordinator quite a bit too. I was hoping I might be able to reach out to him. But is there anyone else that's running race coordinator to want to try going? I'm going to put together the instructions. I'd like to have someone try it out before I publish it to any of the sites. So throwing that out there. And if not, just you could send me a personal message, PM or chat inside this our chat here. Private message inside the chat.
Did you try it? Did you try slot forum?
I want to publish it on slot form once I get it finalized. I didn't want to just publish steps until I had someone else, because I already have it installed in pieces on and I did it in sections on my system. I could just wipe it out and try to do a clean install, but didn't really want to do that. I want to see if somebody else could follow my instructions and see if it made sense and get feedback from them on anything I need to change before I kind of finish it. Okay.
I've never used it because I don't know nothing about that sort of software.
Yeah, it's interesting. It adds a lot of the digital racing features to an analog race management system. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it lets you do fuel, does damage and things like that, and we can determine that you're off the track and give you damage.
Does it support oxygen?
No. Well, I don't know. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter what, because it's not digital. It's an analog. This is the analog setup. I think they do have a digital version of it, but there's a lot of digital stuff already out there. But in the analog world, this is kind of somewhat unique. I think there's another version, another product out there that I think George over at Area 51 just did a review on it that does a little bit of the digital features into the analog world, but it uses cell phones and tablets as the camera on the cell phone and tablets to trace the laps. And I have a infrared sight bridge, and I prefer to use that. And that's where this
and you use it at your home track.
Yeah, well, I have race coordinator on my home track, as well as I have TrackMate as well, so I can go switch.
Show it once in a show how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to see? Yeah.
That's nice to see.
Yeah.
Because I don't know nothing about it.
Yeah, actually, I could do that.
You never know.
Okay, I can set up and do that if the time permits, or we could do it another session, something like that.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay. All right. Well, again, looks like Greg is out. I'm just trying to keep things flowing. Anybody else have anything else they want to chime in on that they want to share with us?
Now, I have a question for Jim.
Go for it.
Let's see what I've got. Jim, I saw your video maybe I don't know how long it was again that you make it, but I saw the vid about the slotted Le Mans cars. And you did a comparison from, and I don't know the correct words about it. So the Mercedes has a longer guidance from front to end than a jack, etc., etc. And you told me, if I saw that there are better for short tracks or for longer tracks, etc.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the Porsche is the shortest.
The Porsche is the shortest.
Yeah, all versions of the Porsche 956/962/ long tail, short tail, they're all the same length, and they are the shortest. The Nissan is the longest, not counting the new Jaguar, the XJR10. That's in a whole different ballgame.
Now,
the Nissan is the longest, and everybody else is kind of in the middle.
Because on our track, we started again with this group, the C group, and we didn't drove it for 4 or 5 years. So I'm a newbie in that group. So I made a Jack and I made a Mercedes. And there is no comparison with the other cars because I couldn't catch up with them. They're driving about 8.0 and I drive about 8.6, 8.7. So, and we drive them, and that's a different ball game, on the wooden track and with soft tires, scale auto. And the Mercedes is a help. And nobody drive on our club also a Mercedes. They also drive, the best cars are the Nissan and Mazda. So there is almost no car that can compete with the Nissan on our club.
Well,
Everybody.
The Nissan's always also the lightest.
Okay, and there you begin.
Yeah, so it's the longest and the lightest. The Porsche is the shortest and a little bit heavier. So I have both, and I take both the tracks and decide. You know, sometimes even the way the track is that day, one of them will work better.
Which
And
Nissan are you talking about?
I didn't hear you.
Which Nissan?
There's only really, well, there's a bunch of variations, but all the variations are the same.
Yeah.
The R8, is it the R89? I think.
R390?
No, not the
R390?
Yeah, one of them has a separate rear wing, and one of them kind of has an attached rear wing, but the dimensions are all the same on all of them.
And they drive a lot of Toyota. So the Nissan and Toyota are the cars to beat over at our club.
The Toyota is on the longer side, but it's not as long as the Nissan.
Yeah.
And the Porsche is definitely the shortest. And so on some tracks, it's really good, and some tracks, the Nissan's better.
They let the Nissan run with Group C?
What is a Group C?
Yeah. The R89, not the 390s.
No, it's not. It's unless it's a R. There's the R390 GT.
That's a whole different car. Yeah, that's
okay.
a GT.
And then there's the 89. I think you're talking about the 89.
I'm just talking about the Group C versions. The 390 is a GT1 car.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the Nissan?
So
what's the Group C Nissan?
89C, I think. There's a couple different ones.
Oh, okay.
The new one is an R90.
R90. Okay.
Yeah, the R90 doesn't run with the spats on it.
I thought I took the Jaguar because it has the most width, but in our rules it says you may only drive 61 millimeters width. So how width the car also can be, it doesn't matter for me because the tires have to be 161. So the Jag is then, I think, the most heaviest car. Probably.
The Nissan is the R89C. There's also a version called the R90V. So there's a couple different versions. There's one called the R90CK. They're all basically the same, except the rear wing is slightly different.
Right.
But the dimensions on all of those Nissan Group C cars are exactly the same.
The advantage of the R90 is it doesn't have the rear wheel spats. The rear guards are slightly different. So if you're running a little wider rear end, you've got a little bit more clearance there.
All right.
But
So
at your club, are the Toyota and the Nissan better than the other cars, or you drive them on rubber?
It really comes down to obviously the driving and the setup, because they're so close. But I picked the Nissan because I'm going from extremes. I wanted the shortest one and the longest one. And the Nissan is also the lightest one. So that's why I have those two cars that I take to a Group C race. I don't take the Jaguar anymore because it just does not seem to work very well on the smaller tracks.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too big. Because it's in a whole nother ballpark when you look at the length of it compared to any of the new Jaguar, compared to any of the other cars, including the old Jaguar.
Right.
So I don't even use that car anymore. It worked great at Electric Dreams because of a lot of different reasons. But in general, I like the Porsche and the Nissan.
And do you use the Evo slotted pot with the sides on it?
Say that again.
Do you also use the Evo slotted holder?
the Evo pod
bracket?
with the side.
Pod?
The side.
Yeah, with the side wings on it.
Well, I'm lost here.
The motor
Okay.
pod that has the extra, the two extra.
We run the stock. We run the stock motor pods in our group. That's all that's allowed.
Oh, you drive them inline, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're in our group, C group in Northern California. We run the cars virtually stock. You
Yeah.
can change the guide. You can change the rear tires. Wheels are stock. Chassis, pods, and everything's stock. And that's why I said again at that Electric Dreams race last year, you could do a lot of stuff to those cars, and we did down there.
Yeah. Okay. We drive them sidewinder, so that's also a different ballgame.
A whole different ballgame. Yeah.
Yep. No. Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Sure.
All right, so I was gone while my inspector was doing his thing. Approved, woot. So solar will be doing its thing soon. But I don't know where we are. Did we do any club corner? Do we want to do club corner now?
Dewann took over and we voted you out.
Okay, Dewann, go ahead, Dewann. I'll make you host.
Not at all.
Well, I guess the floor is up. And if anybody wants to do club corner, go ahead and raise your hand if you haven't already done it, and we'll do that.
I'll raise my hand.
All right, go ahead, Chris.
For Jim, and Dennis isn't here, I don't think. There will be a race at Electric Dreams November 11th, and it will be sponsored by Mr. Slot Car.
Wow.
It looks like, again, it's very tentative. We're just discussing some stuff with Marco at Electric Dreams this morning. It looks like on the Saturday, we will run a GT class, which will be Ernie's McLaren, the Castrol, the Jag, and the Porsche. And then on the Sunday, again, very tentatively, guys, don't hold me to this. We'll be running sort of a mini enduro using the Ferrari 333s.
That's cool.
And
Hey, Chris,
unlike
question, obviously, since this is being recorded, we can talk about this in public.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you can certainly talk about the date. You can certainly talk about the event. We have not finalized rules. We've talked about handout motors, handout tires, various things. Nothing is cemented yet, other than the date.
But we can talk about the Christmas event at Electric Dreams will be a MR slot car race.
Sorry?
We can say that the Christmas event at Electric Dreams will be sponsored by MR slot car.
November 11th.
All I know you can say is on November 11th there will be a race sponsored by. I'm not sure if that classifies as the Christmas event or not.
Oh no, that's December. Never mind. I'm wrong. I was thinking December, November. Never mind.
Yeah, November 11th.
Just don't start building the car yet.
Yeah, unlike past events, it will be other than the motors and the tires, it will be all Mr. Slot Car parts.
Cool.
So we won't be substituting NSR wheels or any of that other anything other.
I think that's a really good idea for those races sponsored by whatever company it happens to be. Just keep it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ernie's got a big range of gears, bushings, et cetera, so it'll probably be, again, a handout motor, handout tires. We haven't decided on that. Probably G25s from Slotta. Not sure on that yet either.
Well, good, then Herman can't put Sonic gears in his MR slot car.
Sorry?
Herman can't put Sonic gears in his car.
Sonic?
Yeah, that's what he's running in some of his cars. So he's going to have to go with MR slot.
I'll give you a little hint.
Well, I know they're made by the same people. But...
Yeah, all of Ernie's gears are Sonic gears. They're all made by Phil Hackett.
That's what I ran in my 4 GTs at the Christmas Enduro and ran great.
Right.
So does that mean you're going to be coming down as well?
I will be there. Ernie and I will be coming down. Yeah.
Excellent.
Wonder what I'm doing.
Great stuff going on at Electric Dreams, man. Just...
All right, excellent news to hear that it'll be a MR Slot Car sponsored race in November 11th of this year at Electric Dreams. Cool beans.
Details Yep, to be finalized.
Yep. All right. Looking forward to that. Any other racing to anybody want to talk about? What are you holding up there, Henry?
We've found something new on the HBB best bench because a lot of people are talking about, I don't know why, but they want it. And it's milliamp. So you can't see that. So we did a little device in it, and now you see the drawing of your motor. How many amps it takes when it's on full speed.
Cool.
I don't know what people are going to do with it.
It's there.
Well, they will be able to find out how many amps their motor draws at full speed.
Exactly.
Correct.
That's what they'll do.
And then you're going to take
And what they do from there is a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't in certainly the more advanced types of racing, I don't know anybody who uses a rolling road.
It was a question from Alan.
When you watch them, you watch them for proxy races, and there's one proxy in particular that they put the cars on the rolling road and let them sit there for 5 or 6 seconds and get a rear wheel speed. Yet all of the straightaways take 1.5 seconds to get down.
Yep.
So I'm not really sure what that tells you at all.
No.
Well, actually, I am sure what it tells you, and the answer is really nothing.
How useful it is up to the people doing the rules.
Well, and what it is actually, having said that, it's not a bad educational piece because a lot of folks assume that if you have a 10,000 RPM motor and it's geared at 3-to-1, your rear wheels should be spinning at 3,333 RPMs, which when you put them on a rolling road and you find out that your rear wheels are only spinning at 2,000 RPM, people freak out. But they don't understand that everything's, you've got gear load, you've got bearing load, you've got all kinds of friction things. So, and then they go, well, I went from 3,300 to 3,307. So you multiply that down and you think, okay, on a 12-foot straight, I'm now like, 3/4 of an inch further ahead.
Yeah, but if you drive 120 laps and you get that every time.
Well, if you drove on a drag strip, yes. A faster motor is not necessarily going to improve your handling or help you get around corners, and it's not going to help you stay on the track any quicker.
But so they will find out now with this device, and they will look for a motor that draws less amps and the same RPM.
Or more, because they want to take away amps from somebody else.
Right. And why would you want to draw less amps?
No, I don't know, because that's the question.
People want
want to use them for that.
The motors that I normally race draw 15 to 20 amps.
Yeah.
So saying my motors are not as fast as your motors that draw 3/4 of an amp it's just not right.
No.
All right, that's what it is.
Why do want people this in this device?
Sorry?
And why do I get all those questions from can you build it?
Yep, people are asking.
Well, there's a lot of very good questions in the world of slot car racing that I ask, like, why are people doing this?
Yeah, okay.
And this is one of them.
Yeah. The customer wants it, so we build it.
Right.
There you go.
And of course, raise the price.
Yep.
Well, hey, they're all good toys. They're all cool things to have. And, I don't have one. I've never had one. And I've been racing slot cars for 60 years.
I'm not saying you have to have one, but I think it's a useful device. Yeah, we use it as a club rule, so we use it all the time.
Yep.
and I know a lot of clubs use that more and more because they want equal races in speed.
So all your clubs use identical diameter rear tires, identical gear ratios, and identical motors.
No, of course not. No, and that's
okay. So explain to me how, like, if I can gear my car to brake better and come out of corners quicker, yet on a rolling road I will have less speed than a car geared differently with taller diameter tires.
The starting point is also that you can use every gear, not every tire, but every diameter of tire. And how do you come there over there? It doesn't matter. The maximum speed is 27 kilometers or 31 or whatever. And we use also the Magnet Marshal, and those are the two things we only do after the race on a car. Yeah, and the rest of the inspection of the rule set. But if you drive faster than 27 kilometers, you get points off. And how do you come there? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Chris, nothing. You would just win the race.
Well, it's I can put a stock Scaly 18K motor in and gear it and use tires to do 27 kilometers an hour.
Correct.
I can also use a torquier motor that's going to accelerate and brake better that will also do 27 miles an hour, but
Correct.
I'll leave the stock Scaly motor in my dust.
Yep.
It's on you.
And how long do you leave it on the rolling road before it says 27 miles an hour?
That's the question.
Right?
It's after the race, and it's not longer than 10 seconds.
Okay, how many straights do you have that take 10 seconds to get down?
No, not at all.
Well, okay.
You have to start somewhere. And that's the rule set. And we do it about 30 years now, and everybody's fine with it.
Oh, I'm not saying you shouldn't be fine with it. I mean,
it's simple. If you have a car that runs 31 kilometers or 27, first you have to drive with it 31 kilometers per hour because you have more problems in the corners than you have on the straight. But it's fair to say if you are a much quicker car, then you are quicker at the end if you stay in the slot.
Yeah, but basically, I mean, we can keep going discussing this. I mean, so just the top speed in a slot car on a piece of a rolling road gives you just a tiny picture of what is the overall things while you are racing, right?
Totally correct.
So you can use it as a kind of way of comparing or try to get to parity, which I don't believe it should be something that you should really push in this way. But it just gives you like a tiny picture of what and maybe that speed you are gonna never achieve because as Chris was saying, you don't have a 10-second long straight. So, and yeah, basically Chris gave an example of how you could play around with those rules in order to get like a better motor and whatnot, in order to kind of win the race. So,
I see so many guys that race at our shop. Last Saturday we had a race, and half of the cars, the rear axle bushings were not aligned. They had not set up good gear mesh, and they're going down and the tires aren't true, and they're getting passed all over the place and going, how come what kind of motor are you using? Well, I'm using exactly the same motor as you are.
Yeah,
it's just you've got an axle that's not true. It's not concentric from one end to the other. So many little things that make way more of a difference.
Of course.
Yeah, and maybe having the arms. I mean, one thing that I would look at, because I'm not as good as Chris to set up like a gear mesh or any aligning my bushes or whatever. So if I have a car and I want to try to fine tune it, maybe I would use the arms just to check, for instance, how much resistance I'm generating in my gearbox line. So that could be a way, instead of looking at top speed, that could be something that I would look at. But it will not tell me how good my car is going to be compared to another one, right? I mean, but again, because I'm not as good at Chris, I think it's just by listening to or feeling and touching, because he's been doing, how long you say, Chris? 26 years?
60.
How long you have been doing slot cars? 60 years?
I got my first slot car set in 1961.
Okay, yeah, so, you know, I still have a long way.
Years. Yeah.
That was for his
I'm not going.
Yeah, I went to my first world championships was in 1972.
So basically, you know, you have a different kind of feeling of how your car, I mean, I think just by looking at it, you know now if a car is going to be good or not. I don't have that kind of.
I mean,
so basically, an extra tool will help.
Yeah, one thing that it is useful for, it is not useful at all, the rolling road for comparing one car to another. However, if you put your axle in and set up your gear mesh and do whatever you're going to do and get everything set up, and you get 24 miles an hour, and then you take it all apart with the same gears, same bushings, same everything, and realign everything, and now you get 27 miles an hour, you will learn how to set up your car a little bit better.
You can also see if your tires are round, etc., etc. You can
I don't
tune.
think I don't think that you will see that by. I mean, if the tires are round, by putting on a rolling road. I mean, that one, for instance, you can do by, you know, when I finish showing my tires, so, you know, I use whatever spirit or white spirit or whatever to try to smooth them out. And with my finger now, I can feel it, for instance, if they are smooth or not. That's
I can see
much better way.
If a car is bouncing, then
but
I'm
man,
sure
it should
I
be
know
really, yeah. Well,
that can,
but the difference.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things. Certainly tires. On the truer, put your finger on the tire and you'll be able to tell in a half a second if the tire's round.
Yeah, for instance, go ahead.
What it won't tell you in the car, if the car is, it will not tell you if your bushings have too much slop in them and the axle's moving around in the bushings. It will not tell you if you have a slightly bent axle. And trust me, tons of the axles that come from the toy makers are not straight and not true.
Yeah. Correct. And, you know, with the truer, basically, you can also check your front tires, for instance, which you cannot do with the rolling road.
Well, yeah.
And especially if you race on wood, then you want to make sure that your front tires are as smooth as your back tires.
Well, if you're, you know, your front tires, if they touch the track, which on 30-second scale is a good thing, if they're bouncing and forcing the guide out of the slot, it doesn't matter how true your rear tire, like if you can't keep the guide in the slot, nothing else matters.
Yes. Yeah, I'm talking here, you know, 1/32, you know, plastic chassis, whatever, you know, and wood racing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of the cars I race don't even have front tires, so it's completely different.
All right, so it sounds like that horse is beaten. So now if there's any additional Club Corner stuff, I'll throw out a little story from Monday night. We raced at Russ's track, that wonderful big routed track with that huge raised straight and bank turn where we run fuel races. Got to stop under the light bridge to refuel your car. I was not super hot that night. You know, some of the guys that were normally slower than me were passing me. I don't know what the deal was. But I managed to stay out of trouble. And I got my laps in. I didn't win a whole lot of heats, but I didn't miss any fuel stops. I didn't, you know, overshoot the fuel sensor. I didn't, you know, crash a bunch. and I managed to bring in first place even without a whole lot of wins. So it's the old slow and steady wins the race. Keep your nose clean and stay out of trouble, and let the other guys crash in front. Don't, like, there were several times I'm like, you know what, go ahead, just pass me. And then the guy would come out 2 or 3 turns later because he's running so crazy. So that's always fun. When you're like, I probably didn't do so well, and then you see your name at the top of the list. Booyah. So that's
the average lap time that matters, not lap time.
Exactly.
Well, as several Formula One drivers have said in the past, the best way to win a race is as slow as possible.
Yeah. Slow and steady. All right. Well, I guess nobody else is jumping up and down to do a club corner thing. So the floor.
I've got one, Greg.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I went to a race meeting this weekend. It was round 1 of what's supposed to be a national championship for digital slot car racing, essentially to DISCA regulations, essentially. But we also have a fan of, well, we have organisers, I should say, who must be fans of checking wheel RPM and saying, well, that motor is well within parameters because of its free rolling wheel RPM. And they also like to use a Gauss meter to try and establish what a car's likely downforce might be. And this is a Gauss meter rather than a magnet Marshall, and a free running wheel RPM as opposed to a rolling road or any other variation of such, which is not usually part of the DISCA regulations, but it's being done. It didn't throw up many cars that failed, although one car was suspiciously fast when it was first checked. That team went away, and I don't know exactly what they did, but if my understanding of the situation is correct, they eventually did race that very same motor that was looking suspiciously fast, and lo and behold, the car on the track was extremely fast, and it won in a 6-hour race by a margin of 100 laps or more. And it was a long straight. It was a circuit with quite a long straight, and it really benefited them because they would go down there with another car, and by the time they were down there, they would either be on its back door or 2 foot in front of it. I'm going to say there was probably 2 to 3 foot, depending on which car they were racing against. It was a sight to behold, and the race was won by the fastest car. But I joined a different team this time. I joined a driver I've never actually had as a teammate. Unfortunately, our car was quite the opposite. Very, very difficult down the straight. Every bit of lap time that we could muster from our car was made up by being pin sharp and quite aggressive around the infield sections. And yeah, our car, the best lap that our car did was at least 0.3 off the pace of the fastest of the winning car. We had a good enough race. Driving wise, we had a couple of issues with the car. We had one occasion where the rear body screw came out of the body shell, but it was trapped in the chassis because there was some tape over the hole. We had to reinstall that, I think, more than once. We also had the rear wing knocked off the car. Not always all the driver's faults. Sometimes you'll have your own little D slot. You'll end up on your roof spinning in the middle of the track, and then a car that's just doing its own thing will come along and chip it off the track like it's a golf ball. And they're a sand wedge. Yay! My son's in the background. So yeah, we had some issues, and we had to repair our rear wing. We had to refix our body shell. The car was not, how should I put it, entirely endurance ready. It wasn't very quick either, but we managed to finish 4th place in a field of about 10. We had fun, we had a good time, and now the series moves on to round 2, which is down near London. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be going to that one, but yeah, that's what I did at the weekend.
Isn't it? It isn't round 2 like just in a couple more weeks, or is it later in March?
Yeah, I think it's after Le Mans, so it might be in April.
Okay, I know. I'm pretty sure there's another race coming up pretty soon. Maybe it's not part of that series though.
I don't know of any other opportunities to run digital disco regulations this side of Le Mans, unless I'm mistaken. But I haven't, because I haven't intended to go to the London one, because that's about 4 hours each way or more, depending on traffic.
Which car did you drive this time, Wayne?
Pardon?
Which car did you drive this time?
Oh well, it was a slotted Alpine.
You didn't build them?
I didn't build it, no.
No. Okay.
It was refreshing, really, because I only turned up with a pack of sandwiches.
Ooh, nice.
Quite different for me, but yeah.
Nothing lost on the way?
No, there were no flights, so I got there on time. That's an insider joke for those that know. But I do have a question for you, though, Henry. I have upcoming in my very imminent future a race on Carrera track, which I've never used before. As you know, I've seen it, and I've seen it used for practice over at Eindhoven, but I've never driven on it.
Analog or digital?
It's digital. And what I want to know is...
Oxygen digital?
Yes, it is. What I want to know is, how do you set up your front end with regard to front wheel height and things like that? How high are the rails? Do you set them? Do you use a setup block?
Yeah, you have to use your tires a little bit higher.
A little bit higher than
Ninko.
Yeah, the rails on Ninko are slightly more proud than on Carrera. Carrera rails are very slightly proud, whereas Ninko's are super proud.
Significantly proud.
Yeah, and you have to do your brakes a little bit to the left and the right.
Well, that's why I got the slot invasion guide that I showed you earlier. I believe that's going to put them further apart, because I know that the rail, the slot is wider and the rails are further apart.
And you can fix your front axle. You don't need to have it sloppy like on Ninko.
Well, I don't have sloppy on Ninko anyway.
Oh, okay.
I like minimal slop, and so does Gio, because recently in one of the chats there was a question that came out of the topic bag, which was, should there ever be any vertical movement in a front wheel? And the answers that came from the group, predominantly from Gio, who I know also races Ninko tracks, was like, no, never should there ever be any slop in a front axle. I know that
they do it on Ninko. I know other people does that on Ninko.
Yes, that's. I think I'm aware of other people that do that on Ninko.
Yeah, I don't.
So when I race on Ninko, that's basically it's only when I come to do the disc car racing. I kind of when I put my car on my setup box, setup block, so I leave the tires up in the air, maybe 1 mil.
Yeah.
So they are not touching my block. I mean, on Ninko, of course, because it's so bumpy, might be the case they're touching here and there, but they are not basically taking the full kind of because basically in Ninko is so much it's not smooth at all, so basically we'll be jumping all over the places. When
it's also about the rule set. If the rule set says you have to be with your front tires on the ground.
Well, the rule sets don't ever do that.
Yeah. So for the Carrera one, then I will set up as for Wood or my Scalatrix racing. So basically, I will make sure that they are touching, no slope in the front axle.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're touching, but the guide has to be, deep inside the slot and the braids well in contact with underneath the guide. I mean, consider also that, I mean, at least for maybe it's kind of my lot. I mean, I have a large lot of Carrera track. Some I think it's pretty old, and then some new ones. And there is a bit difference in the height of the rails, but it's
Correct.
not as bad as for Ninko. So I would still go for a setup like Wood.
And I don't know the guide that you bought. Is that guide especially also for digital? Because it's a different way of lane changing. The guide pushes the lane changes close them again. And if you have a very pointy guide, then you can break the knock on in the Carrera track.
Right.
Yeah, I think the guide that he shows is, I mean, it's not that pointy, also hefty enough to kind of close again the flipper. It's not like NSR ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that red one that he was showing earlier looked like it should close it.
Yeah, should.
Because I use them for scale out, and then I always trim them down.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea, Wayne, to buy a piece of track for every type of surface that you run on.
Correct.
So I've got a piece of Carrera track, a piece of Policar, a piece of blah 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 blah.
Yep.
Now the rails change. Not every rail on every piece of track is perfectly the same, but you can get a very, very good baseline on that.
I agree, actually, and I have never gotten a piece of Ninko track. That's the one I would have expected to have already owned. But this Carrera will be a first. I don't think it will be the only time. There'll be another one at the same venue in November.
Yeah.
So this will be a first experience.
Do they still use the eye on the left side? Do you have to use the C-chip?
No, it's entirely oxygen.
Okay, there's a changed Carrera digital to the oxygen eye in the middle.
I'm going to guess that they purchased the requisite components to convert Carrera lane changes into equivalent to Ninko's, or oxygen lane changes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you're talking about the Sebring race, right?
I am, yes.
Wayne. Yeah. So I think that they did buy the oxygen lane drivers. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, the event took place for the first time last year, but it took place on Ninko track. So the circuit is not unfamiliar to me. It's just the Carrera that's unfamiliar.
Which tires do you have to use?
Interesting. Slotic P6.
And
yeah, you can find them.
Yeah, I found a pack. They were all out of stock at Pendle by the time I got around to ordering some, but I found some. PT25, 20 by 11.
Yeah, not a bad tire.
It feels quite nice.
Yeah.
The quality of the mold seems to be better than anything that I've seen, that's in current production, if these are out of production, that is. The quality of the rubber, well, I've tickled it briefly on the tire truer just to make sure it was flat. And even though I was using some relatively coarse abrasive, it still had a pleasant finish, had a finish that surprised me. Didn't look like it needed any more finer.
What type of rubber is that, though? I don't know the P26, but what type of rubber is that? Is that like C1 or G25 or F222?
It's a P6. It's
called
a P6.
P6.
Yeah.
I don't know anything that compares to the P6 directly.
It's similar to the slotted G25s, but not as good. It's fine, and as long as everybody's on the same tire, who can, like, it really doesn't make much difference.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's not as quick as their new G25s, but it's a pretty nice tire. Easy to true, easy to set up. Just on front end, can I share a picture here?
Yeah.
I just wanted to show Wayne something. Is that up?
Yep.
Not yet.
Oh gosh, yeah. I dream about those little blocks.
Okay, this has not. I'm not talking about the chassis. This is just setting up a front end.
Yep.
So this car, this is a Vanquish I'm redoing for somebody and getting rid of the differentials and a whole bunch of other stuff. But normally it has elongated holes here so the axle can float up and down.
Yep.
So if there is vertical movement, what I normally test is, because we run very hard tires, they're all like in our little slot car world. If you set up your car and put it on the track and take your finger and push right here, which will let the axle raise into the chassis, and look at it, you will find this tire will come off the ground.
Correct.
When this tire comes off the ground, you end up getting really erratic handling on the car. It's not consistent, it's not precise, and you've only got one wheel on the track. So what I've done in this instance, I have used some bushings and set them up in the block to limit any vertical movement. So when I push down here, I don't get any lift on the opposite side tire. So you can get away with that a little more on Ninko, but Carrera being a smooth track or a wood track or a scaly sport track, I would absolutely 100% every time try and eliminate any vertical axle movement you can get.
Yeah.
Nice.
So basically, I would treat it basically, for Scalatrix and Carrera, I will set up my car as I was gonna set up for wood. Let's put in this way.
Yeah.
It'll work well. But for Ningo, said it's a bit faster. I mean, if you set up a car for wood and then you put on Ningo truck, it's gonna be a disaster.
Oh, it's
I'm doing
And I don't know Policar, so I've never raced on Policar. And may I share a picture as well?
Yep.
Well, sure way.
Of course, I cannot share because the bloody thing gets at me. So we talk about the P6 tires, right? That they look nice. I mean, not all of them look nice. So a while ago, we're doing some class that was using the P6, and these are basically P6 out of the box. So it had these big gashes here. I mean, so out of the packet. So just in here. So be aware. I mean, if you are getting these tires, that sometimes they might have issues. So if these ends out tires, I mean, that you get on the day, double check.
my pair aren't like, mine aren't like that.
Yeah. This is just it's a one-off, of course, right? I mean, I'm saying that some
looks like it stuck to the mold and got tore away from the inside of the mold or something.
Yeah, that's. I would assume that anybody putting those tires on a car would see that right away, and if it's handout tires, you just go straight back to, coordination and get another set of tires.
I'm actually doing that thing that Chris just showed with both axles in the car with tires on. They've all been on the truer, and they're all, as far as I can make them, an identical size. But what I've just discovered is that and there is slop in the front axle holes on this car, which I don't intend to maintain, but I've just discovered that one hole appears to be higher than the other. Either that or is a chassis twist, and there shouldn't be a chassis twist because it's been in the bath.
Well, there's a big difference between, yes, you can't, I'm going to go back to that. Never ever We back up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Never assume that just because this whole thing seems to be flat and sits nicely on a block, do not assume that the oval in here starts and stops at the same place
Same
as
place.
here,
Exactly.
or the same one on the back. So when I set up a block, I use blocks so the whole chassis is slightly off of the track. So
Yeah,
when
I'm doing it on
all-
tires, and I've got like 2 millimeters of ground clearance underneath this car because the
Yeah.
tires are 20.7 in diameter on the back.
Yeah, so if this is slightly off the track, as long as I know as all my 4 axle blocks are on the track, I will eliminate any inconsistencies in the depth of this bushing cup or
Yeah.
this bushing cup or any slight little twists. You know, do not even on a motor pod, a slotted motor pod, do not assume that the left and rear uprights on the back of a slotted motor pod, when you put the bushings in, are perfectly
The same height.
aligned and parallel. Now, that's not that critical because most guys leave their pods with a little bit of movement in them, so it sort of self-level itself out.
Yeah.
But if you can get a jig, jigs are, what this does is it allows me to make sure both on a plastic car, on a scratch built car, doesn't matter. It allows me to make sure that both axles are completely parallel, so there's no steering effect on the car. And then when I set up bushings by using, you know, various size blocks and stuff, I can assure that my axles are both on the same horizontal plane. So there's no more pressure on this tire than this tire and this tire and this tire. So jigs are not only great for scratch building, they are absolutely, you know, I know a lot of guys put axle tubes in here. And, you know, you click the tube in and you look at it and the tube's over this way or the tube's going this way and they're not straight. So a jig allows you to eliminate all that stuff.
Those little blocks come with the jigs.
Yeah, well, depending on the jig you get, yes, they do. I'm gonna go, sorry. They're very cool.
You can get sets of blocks separately.
They make different, this, I can't really see. This, the jigs, they're 4-sided. So what this is telling me.
Yeah, they're all different diameter wheels, aren't they, when they're on the 4 different sides?
Right, so this is a 2 mil clearance block. There's 2 mil on the side here. So this will tell me if I'm using a 23 millimeter wheel and tire set on the ground, I will have 2 millimeters clearance on my thing. So yes, you can buy, you don't need to buy blocks. You can use spur gears, you can use crown gears, you can use wheels, you can use all kinds of stuff as long as you use, and it's not critical if you use the same front to back, it's critical if you use the same left to right.
Of course, yeah, understood. You've had me just take the front axle out and switch it around in the car to establish whether the issue reverses because I've got odd sized front wheels, but no, the issue is the same no matter which way I put the front axle in the car. And I've also vernier checked my tires and they are absolutely the same as one another. Yeah. So yeah, I've clearly got a hole in the chassis that's higher than the other one.
Oh, absolutely.
Elongation.
Absolutely. Well, when I put this together, I had to, I'm using these reduced diameter. There's a standard 3/32 by 3/16 oil light. And these are the reduced size bushing ones. And these almost push in here.
But you're not up right now, by the way.
Sorry?
Are you talking about a picture? Because you're not sharing right now.
I'm not?
No. You might be looking at it, but we're not seeing it. There we go.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy. I can care less about you guys. Is it up?
Yes.
Yes, up now.
Okay. Yeah, so these are the reduced diameter bushings. There's a normal 3/16 bushing. these things are great for Policar, F1 car, all kinds of things where you're really tight for space. You can put these bushings in. And when I put these bushings in the car originally, the axle went over here. So
Yeah.
they were not aligned. So I had to grind it a little more on this side and get everything squared up. So do not assume for 1 second that anything on this piece of plastic or a slotted or an NSR piece of plastic is precision at all. Always check.
How are you able to determine that that skew? Obviously, you're not doing it visually. You're using some type of measure. What are you measuring?
Well, okay, this
The little lines on the block, Dewann.
Okay,
well,
I was looking
sorry?
at that. That's what I thought. Okay, I see the lines along the block. So is that how you use?
Okay,
determine
so I got my axles, right, that run in between these uprights. I can alter my wheelbase, which I do, and then this is a snug fit with a long axle that runs here. And when I put the axle in, I had to pull this part of the axle forward to fit between the little upright portion. So that tells me that it's not square.
Gotcha. On a kind of related question, when you get handout, well, specifically for the November 11th MR race at Electric Dreams, when they do the handout of both the motor and the wheels, or the tires, I guess, are they doing that the day of the race, or do you get a chance to work with them for a period before the race to true them?
When you say work with them, what percent? Like I get nervous when you say, what kind of work are you going to be doing with them?
Truing the tires and
the tires. Trust me, the tires will be truer than the tires will be true.
I can understand. That makes sense. Okay.
What will likely happen and again, don't hold me to this. If it's a Friday or a Saturday practice, we will do handout motors, handout tires.
Gotcha.
So guys can run their practice to do gear setups, weight setups, whatever they want to do. And then come race morning, there will be a new set of tires and a new motor. Your setup will be your setup. That's what I think.
At the Enduro last December, and it could be totally different because it's different, but he did give handout motors 2 to 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
See, that's an absolute luxury, because when we do the Disco races, it depends on which one, but at the Le Mans 24, for example, we get a handout motor and handout tires, and the qualifying session starts now. It is, however, 90 minutes, so there's time to put the things in the cars and fiddle around if you wish to true tires and whatnots. But handout tires that we get for the Disco race at the weekend, for example, was it handout tires? Yes, it was. They were in parc fermé conditions under control, and you were only allowed to take one pair of the 2 pairs that you had in your box. Literally a few minutes before qualifying was underway. Again, qualifying was only an hour. There really isn't much time. It was like, peel your old ones off, peel your new ones on, and of course, in our regulations in this particular class, gluing is not permitted, so that's easily done. And then throw the car on the track and let the track true the tires as you use them.
Wayne, or Jim, I probably should have said the tires will be glued onto wheels and trued.
Sorry, yeah, I wasn't speaking of the way that things will run at the MR slot car race in November. I was speaking of the relative luxury that you guys have been afforded over there with the handout motors for last year's Slotted Nationals being out and public for weeks before they were. It's like nothing like what we do.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I was assuming that handout motors would be given to you the day of the race, but that's not the way they did it last time.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they'll do it the same way again, but that's just the way they did it.
Again, don't. I have no idea, Jim.
Yeah, nothing's set in stone. I understand that.
Like at the end of you may get them 2 months in advance. I suspect you won't. I suspect you'll get them the day of. But the tires will. We're building a new machine that trues 4 to 6 tires on wheels at a time. We're having that built for us as we speak. So there will be tons of sets of tires. All of the G25s will be glued on and trued. And you don't want to give out motors too much in advance. There are things that the more experienced racers can do to motors without opening them up that can change them a little tiny bit, and we don't want any part of that. The motors will not have wrappers on them. The motors will all be engraved. So you'll know, oh, I took the wrapper fell off, and okay, well, no, it didn't. It's engraved, and there you go. So again, please don't run around and panic about rules because we don't know them at this point in time.
But we need to know now, Chris.
Yeah. The one thing that we really want to do is we really want to make it as fair as possible for every single person in the field.
Looking forward to it.
Good stuff.
I had another question for Wayne. I was contemplating going to the Slot Car Festival in May. How far is London from Gaydon? Is that reasonable to stay in London and go to the festival in Gaydon?
I'm going to say the drive is going to be in the 2 hours region. The Gaydon is pretty well mid-country, and London isn't. But if you were going to go directly to Gaydon, I would say take an airplane to East Midlands Airport, which is the Midlands, but or Birmingham. In fact, Birmingham's probably even closer. So yeah, I don't know the journey time between Birmingham and London, and it's just outside Birmingham.
When you're Electric Dreams, you could ask Marco because he's been there.
I haven't even been to the Slot Festival yet. I've never gone. I might go myself, actually. So I'll see you there, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I haven't confirmed it yet, but I'm trying to make it happen.
Uh-oh. Problems.
Well, the Ford.
It's 90 miles from London to Gaydon.
Yeah, you're looking at an hour and a half to 2 hour then.
Hour and 45. I've done it in an hour and 45 minutes. No problem.
Well, that's a reasonable guess then. I hope. God.
Well, I want to, be in London for a few days and kind of take in the sights and stuff. So I'm probably going to stay there and then just go to Gaydon on Friday.
Yeah, that's doable.
Yeah. Okay.
Public transport.
Just remember to drive on the correct side of the road.
Yeah, that part.
This is it. Is it public transport? Are you driving?
I was planning on getting a rental car. I haven't really looked into it yet, but that was my intentions.
Yeah, good luck driving in London, man.
Yeah, we're on my forthcoming European vacation that we're doing trains and planes and buses. I have no desire whatsoever to be behind the wheel of anything in there.
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, most of the UK, I would say, you have the best drivers. I mean, the driving is really nice, except London, because it's not UK anymore, or it's not England. It's full of a lot of other type of people. People are crazy. But being from LA, I think you might handle it. Anyway, on that note, I'm moving on. I have another meeting and Zoom stuff. Right. You guys take care and see you next week.
See you, Gio.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
So bye. When is the Gaydon event? What day of what month?
May 20th and 21st.
May 20th and 21st. Dang. Yeah. I won't be there.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I think I'll only be there on Saturday. I have to fly out Sunday morning to go to Atlanta.
Once I get my itinerary, finalized, I'll be looking for clubs to visit to see if there's any free time that I can visit somebody in the UK. I will, but
you might catch Alan.
Yeah, because he's going all over the place.
No, I mean, if you, you're going to come to London, aren't you?
I'll be in London, that's for sure. Yep.
So you might catch Alan at London's club.
Yep. So I'll probably ask him if there's a time I can swing by. I don't know. What do you know? What day of the week they race? Or is it
I do. I did.
No worries. Like I said, part of our vacation planning is including a little bit of downtime, like not having an excursion every single day that we're there. But most days have something planned, so it's not like I can just go any day I want to. So hopefully the times that I'll be able to get away from.
I think it's Tuesday.
Wayne has a lot of good tips for hotels, like the Happy Pig.
What do these guys know about the Happy Pig, Henry?
I don't know. It was a big style.
You told us about your hotel shenanigans a couple weeks ago.
Is that a by the hour place, Wayne?
Wayne, did you get your money back?
In Amsterdam, it could be. No, I didn't. I've been trying. I've had some fun with customer service at booking.com, but no joy.
Great.
Dewann, I think Ed Shore is going. You might check with him.
Yeah, I know that Dennis is going as well. Oh, yeah. When are you going, Greg?
End of April, beginning of May. So basically the 2 weeks that crosses over April and May for a concert, and then touristing. So gonna do all that.
Who are you going to see?
Nick Kershaw.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh gosh.
In Worthing. It's my bucket list. It's my one bucket list item to see him live.
You guys remember these little Dremel tools? Okay, so when I went to Eindhoven, I didn't put that in my toolbox. I had that in my spares box because it's a bit big for my toolbox. And when I went through security in Manchester Airport, they confiscated it from me.
With the rest of the stuff.
Well, my tools were in a suitcase, and that suitcase never flew to Eindhoven. So I went to the race meeting completely without tools. Managed to borrow 4 wrenches whilst I was there and did the whole weekend with just 4 wrenches. But my Dremel tool is still at Manchester Airport, and the piece of paper that they gave me to be able to claim it back stuck the reference number into the website. They want £24 to mail this £10 Dremel back to me. So the one I just showed you is a new one.
Yeah, just order another. Yep. What did they say? Why they confiscated it? Because it had a battery, or?
No. We had the conversation because I was carrying a 12-volt soldering iron in the same container, and the argument seemed to be around whether or not these things were tools. And I said, well, that thing over there that woman's got just put through security is a tool for drying your hair, is it not?
Right. Just tell them it's a tool for removing nose hairs.
Well, no, it was
certainly do.
I mean, I explained what it was. It's a soldering iron. I had the solder in the box with it, and I said, look, it melts this metal into electrical joints, and you have to break it down to the most basic. But I managed to keep my soldering iron, but they wouldn't allow me to keep my Dremel because a drill is still a drill, whether it's got a drill bit with it or not. I said, well, it's got no drill bits. It's just got these rotary stones and this cutting disc. And
they also wanted your tire through, didn't they?
Oh God, geez! Can you imagine trying to explain a tire thrower to a security? Oh, it was just a hunk of metal in the bottom of my suitcase. It was, but it flew. And it's the one thing I could do while I was there. I had to borrow a hex wrench to be able to take my wheels on and off, but that wasn't too difficult. But yeah, it was a difficult meeting. Not entirely unsuccessful. 5th place in 3 races from 16 teams.
Yeah.
Not really what we wanted, but not too bad considering the circumstances.
Yeah, if you're counting your Hall sensor, counting double length.
Yeah.
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 Then I also get 5th.
Yeah, Henry stood next to me complaining about his car. It's slow, it's slow.
There was one guy, he said, you're wearing that hat and it's a pain in the ass because I can't see the
track,
the course. So, okay, that's a nice tip. I'll keep it on. He was not amused.
I had it too. I had it about the height of the height I was holding my controller at. I had it this weekend. It's like I'm stood far enough back. I mean, I'm not stood forward in comparison to anyone else. But the bloke to my left was looking a lot, pretty much similar to, he was looking to his right to part of the track and trying to look at it through my controller. But honestly, how can anybody dictate to me how?
Yeah, as long as you're within the prescribed driving stance area, then as long as you're not like, sucks to be you.
I said to the guy, hey, I'm a little bit bigger than a dwarf. What's your problem?
Yeah, I mean, we've at our smaller club races, we're pretty much always up against the track, right? We don't have a whole, thing that we stand apart from the track. We're right up on the track. So there's definitely times where, somebody with a big gut like me or whatever is a little bit too close to the track, and you're having to kind of look around, and you're blocking the guy on your other side. So it's like, everybody take a step back. Everybody, but some guys just have a habit of just standing right up on the track.
Yeah.
Well, in Eindhoven,
it was a big
16 drivers. We have 16
drivers on a stand of 8 meters.
14.
Yeah.
14, I would say.
Yeah. And it was, it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
So next year we're going to drive with 14 because that's the limit.
It's going to change.
Yeah. And that's a pity because you can also make your stand a little bit bigger.
Yeah. And that's one of the funny things that often comes up in conversations of, how many cars are on the track at the same time. Well, sure, you can have 20 or 24 cars with Scorpias, supposedly, but do you have room for that many drivers to stand and see your track?
That's the issue.
A lot of times there isn't, except for like, the Le Mans 24 where they've got just the entire,
space.
Yeah, the podium, the driving stand. Yeah, it still matters where you stand on there though, because if you get near, well, if you're looking at it from the front, you're looking at the right hand end, but as a driver, you'd be on the left. Then you've got the pit lane, not a million miles to your left and in front. And whenever a team member walks towards the pit lane, they start to obscure your vision of Ford chicane and the first corner after that, Dunlop curve and the straight between them. And it can get pretty tricky to your left when you're on driver's left of the podium. Driver's right isn't so bad as an end position.
No.
But the middle is always still the best.
Yeah.
Are there any circuits that allow you to, with all these wireless controllers, to not all be, in the same driver's area, that allow you to maybe have strategic or don't disqualify you from going to different sections of the track?
Well, none of the tracks that we use, well, there's a regulation that says that you must plug into a power socket. And there's a double reason for that. We don't want people calling out to race control, oh, look, I've got problems with race control, with timekeeping, with control of my car, etc., etc., just because they've got a flat battery in their handset. So we all plug into a socket, and the sockets dictate where you stand. And the other element about that is that you don't get to stand where you like. You can only drive from where you're meant to. We don't want people driving from the pits or driving from race control or anywhere other than where they're meant to be. So there's a double edge to that regulation.
There is also a position on the stand is the position where you qualified. So
That's
if
what
you
you're qualifying
qualified
for.
last, if you qualified last, you are on the not on the favorite spot.
Yeah, you get last choice of where to stand.
Yeah.
That's the, I mean, as well as grid position, that is the main benefit of qualifying high. You get to choose your position.
Cool. Yeah, and yeah, even if you had a venue such that you had a big oxygen track and you wanted all 20 cars, and so you had to find a spot for 20 racers, you would not want them just picking their own spot. You'd want to prescribe where all the spots are.
Correct.
Because you also need to prescribe where the marshalling spots are, and you need to not have drivers obscuring other drivers' views or getting in the way of marshalling duties or vice versa, or
yeah.
Lots of things that can go wrong with letting a driver just pick wherever he wants to stand, relative to the track. But I could see a venue that might have like enough room on both sides of the track, so maybe there's 10 drivers over here and 10 drivers over there. I've never seen it done, but it's certainly possible.
Well, we have one, the one circuit that's a permanent 4-lane Ninko down in Stanborough was an experience for me when I went down there in December for the first time, because they've got a disabled access, and that is on the end of the track. So the track is naturally quite rectangular, and all the drivers are standing along the long side, but there's one driver who takes a position on an elevated platform on the end of the track and does not slow him down one bit. Trust me, he can do it from there. But that's the only place I've seen where we do disco races from anywhere other than along the main street, effectively.
Where are you going?
Cool.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going anywhere. What are you talking about? All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button since we're at a lull in the conversation, but I'm sure you guys will talk about other things. So until next week, everyone, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Next week.